In this lesson, we'll talk about area and circumference of a circle. Let's look at the parts of a circle first. So in the circle, we have a few important parts. The circle is created by using this radius, which is the distance from the center to the edge. And the radius is the same distance from center to any point on the edge of the circle. So the radius is the distance from the center to the edge of the circle. That is radius. Diameter is the segment going through the center all the way across the center. So the diameter goes all the way from side to side, but it's important that it has to go through the center. So the diameter is like how wide the circle is from edge to edge. And let's say if the radius right here is given, and I can extend it to the other side, then it will become a diameter. So that said, the diameter is like radius and radius times 2. 2 of the radius together create the full diameter. The circumference is the distance all the way around the circle. So if we start, let's say, in one point and go all the way around to that original point and close it, that will become circumference. So circumference is the distance all the way around the circle. To find the circumference, we have a formula, which is 2 times radius times pi. And pi commonly used is 3.14. So 2 times radius times pi gives us the formula for the circumference. To find the circumference, or to find the distance around the circle, we multiply 2 times the radius times pi. Then what I earlier said is that the radius and radius, if you have 2 of them, 2 times radius is is diameter. So another formula, 2 times the radius is diameter. So instead of 2 times radius, I can use diameter, and then times pi. This is the same formula written in 2 different ways. So to find the circumference, we have 2 times radius times pi. Since 2 times radius is diameter, that formula can be written as just diameter times pi. I like to use only one formula instead of remembering 2, so I prefer this one, 2 times radius times pi, 2r pi. The area is the number of square units inside the circle. So if I was to look at the inside of the circle, the area would be like this number of squares, but this one is not complete. So this ones have partially cut off. So we can maybe combine this piece and this piece and this piece and this piece. But we can estimate the area by looking at how many squares are inside the circle. Area is the number of square units inside the circle. To find the area, we have the formula pi, still that 3.14 as approximate value, times radius to the second power. In other words, we multiply the radius times itself. So pi times radius times radius. That becomes the area formula, which is pi times radius squared. Pi times radius times radius. Pi times radius times radius. Multiply the radius by itself. So for example, let's put these parts together to see how they work in an example. By analyzing the circle, I have the radius of 2 centimeters. So that's all I know about this circle. Based on this information, I can find the diameter, circumference, and area. So the radius is 2. The diameter is 2 times as much. In other words, the diameter is going to be 2 times 2, which is 4, because we have 2 and 2 more. Diameter is 4 centimeters. What to do to find the circumference? To find the circumference, we use the formula 2 times radius times pi. Then we substitute the numbers. 2 times radius is 2, and then pi is 3.14. And then multiply. 2 times 2 is 4, which is our diameter, and then times 3.14. That will be 12.56. So 2 times 2 is 4. Multiply that by 3.14. Gives us 12.56 centimeters. So what that is circumference. Let's say if I start in this point and I go all the way around and I come back, that circumference is 12.56 centimeters. For the diameter being 4 and radius 2, those are the parts that we use for the formula. So for the circumference, if I use the formula 2 times radius times pi, 2 times 2 is 4, which is the diameter, so I can use this, diameter times pi, which is still 4, times 3.14, 12.56. What do we need to find the area? The formula says area is how many square units inside the figure, and the formula is pi times radius squared. So 3.14 for pi, radius 2 squared, which means 3.14, and then here we have radius times radius, 2 times 2, 2 squared, and then multiply that. And it's still 12.56. That rarely happens. This time, since we have radius squared and we multiply centimeters times centimeters, we have centimeters squared. So let's see, if I look at this example here, my circumference was 12.56, which is the distance around the circle with the radius of 2. Well, this circle right here has the radius of 2 units. So if I go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, approximately 12. So that distance around that circle was approximately 12.56. And since some of the segments were longer, some shorter, this is a pretty good estimate to get that circumference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 approximately units. Then the area was pi times radius squared, or the amount of units inside the figure, and we still had about 12.56. So if I look inside the figure, this one kind of is almost complete. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we have this cutoffs, or let's say little pieces. So those pieces, once we put them together, that will be a really close estimate to 12.56 as well. Let's see some more examples how to work these formulas. So for the problems, we'll use the given information and answer what's being asked or the missing parts. Let's say this circle has the diameter of 8 centimeters. Okay, what part of the circle is diameter? Diameter is the distance across the circle from edge to edge all the way across. That is diameter. To determine the radius, we need 4 and 4, or 8 divided by 2, because the radius is half of the diameter. So the radius would be 4, a divided by 2. Circumference. To find a circumference, we need 2 times radius times pi. So always start with the formula. 2 times radius times pi, which is 2, substitute the radius, 4, substitute the pi, 3.14. So 2 times radius times pi. Then multiply. 2 times radius, 4 times 3.14 equals 25.12. Double check that. 2 times 4 equals 8, and times 3.14, 25.12. Circumference is in units. This time we have the centimeters for units. Let's say this circle has the diameter of 12.2. So diameter, by definition, is the distance all the way from side to side. It's like the width of the circle. Diameter is 12.2. The radius is half of that. So the radius is from the center to the edge. So that would be 6.1. Right here, 6.1. To find the circumference, we need 2 times radius times pi. So 2 times radius, 6.1, times pi, 3.14. 2 times radius times pi, multiply. 2 times radius, 6.1, times pi, 3.14. 38.308, and that would be inches. So the distance around this crust of the pizza, that will be the circumference, 38 point approximately 3, but I can leave all the decimals that I had in my calculator, inches. Let's see, this following circle has a radius of 1.5. Well, the given radius is the distance from the center to the edge. That is our radius, 1.5 inches. The diameter will be all the way complete from side to side. So the diameter will be 2 times radius, which is 3. 1.5 times 2. 1.5 on one side, 1.5 on another. That would be 3 inches. And to find the circumference, or what is the distance around this big cookie? We have 2 times radius times pi. 2 times radius, 1.5, pi, 3.14. Multiply. 2 times 1.5 times 3.14. That will be 9.42 inches. What if the following circle here, which is a large playground, looks like in a circular shape? The following circle has the radius of 100 yards. So from the center to the edge, radius is 100 yards. Diameter is all the way across, so twice that. That will be 200 yards. Diameter is the distance across, so radius on one side 100 times the other side 100. 100 times 2 is 200. Circumference formula, 2 times radius times pi. That would be 2 times radius, 100, pi, 3.14. 2 times radius times pi, multiply. 2 times 100, and then times 3.14. 628 So if this little guy runs all the way around the park, that's the circumference. Running around 628 yards. For the area on the other side, we have the number of square units inside the figure. So it's like by estimate, we can find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and those little pieces in the corner. So let's look at these parts. The radius is the distance from the center to the edge. So you can see it here, 2, or you can see it here, 2, full 2 squares. That is your radius. Diameter is the distance all the way across from side to side going through the center. So diameter will be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2 times radius. That's 4. To find the area, the formula says pi times radius squared. In other words, 3.14 times radius, 2 to the second power. 2 to the second power means 2 times 2, which is 4. 3.14 times 4 is 12.56. The units in the area will be to the second power, or unit square. Next example, radius, that is 3. Diameter has to be 3 and 3, the distance all the way across, or radius times 2. 3 times 2 is 6, all the way across the circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What's the area? Area is when you multiply pi times radius squared. Really important. When you square the radius, let's say here we have 3 to the second power. 3 to the second power means 9, because 3 squared means 3 times 3, the base times itself. 3 times 3 is 9, so 3.14 times 9 is 28.26. And then our units are squared. Area is always square units, whether inches squared, feet squared, centimeters squared, the units are square units. What's the radius? Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4. The radius is the distance from the center to the edge. You can count it here, or here, or here, or here. The diameter is all the way across. So 4 plus 4, all the way across. Diameter is 8. Or 2 times radius, 8. Area, to find the area, we multiply pi times radius squared. In other words, 3.14 approximate value, radius 4, and it has to be times 4 to the second power. So 3.14, 4 times 4 is 16, and then multiply. 3.14 times 16, we have 50.24 area units squared. Now let's see this area of the big park. We have this big playground with the radius of, so from the center to the edge, 100 yards. What's the area? Well, to find the area, we have the formula. Pi times radius squared. 3.14 times radius. 100 squared. 100 squared means 100 times 100. So we have 10,000. Let's see. 100 times 100 is 10,000. And multiply by 3.14. That will be 31,400 square yards. To find the circumference, we have the formula 2 times radius times pi. For the area, pi times radius squared.